Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Learning Live for Tuesday, March the 21st, if you can believe. I'm here with Marcie, and I'm going to just turn things over. She has some really exciting things planned. Actually, she had way more planned than we actually have time for. So we pulled her in just a little bit, but she's got tons of stuff to show you with working with stencils, doing some neat stuff with stencils. And without further ado, welcome Marcie and take it away.
Hi, crafters. I hope everyone's having a good evening. Welcome again to Learning Live at 8. Today, I'm going to be talking about different ways to use your stencils. And I think we all have a plethora of stencils, whether it be photo play, spellbinders, Vicky Bouton, Lawn Fawn, the list goes on and on. I just wanted to show you a couple of ideas using your stencils a little bit differently. This is one that I had a lot of fun with. So this is sort of a rainbow effect using this cloud stencil from TCW. But if you want to sort of elevate it, and now I have to find it. So you can use a stencil on top of a stencil. So after I did the clouds, I put on this, I think it was a Lawn Fawn stencil, and I just did it in certain areas on the card. And then I did a little stitch. So it isn't just for, normally stencils, you use your stencil butters, your paint, your inks, your Nuvo drops, your sprays, even watercolor markers. But you can have a little fun on the, I guess you would call it sort of doodling side, maybe even mixed media a little bit. I did another one here. I did the same rainbow, and I just added stitched highlights all on top of each cloud color. I tried it on a piece of craft cardstock, and then I actually used a white pencil crayon to add the dashes. And then I sort of combined the different effects. So I did the rainbow again. I used the Falling Hearts by Lawn Fawn. And then I used, you can kind of see a little bit of a glimmer. I used my my ink to splatter some of this iridescent spray on. But then once adding that onto a card front would be great. Even cutting it out and using it as a frame. Let's just put that up there. And I want to show you now another idea which I had a lot of fun with. So this is all, now I can't remember which one this is. This is Gina K, water droplets. And what I've started to do here is I used a combination of different things. So this was, I'm just going to add a little bit on here so you can see what I've done. So I've taken my distressed oxide and I'm just going through the stencil. And you can do it as you can do the color as deep as you want or as faded as you want. Okay. And then what I like to do is I will take my black Micron archival ink and I'm going to do a little bit, of doodling. That wasn't a good one. Just like this, little bits of doodles here and there. And then another thing you can do is with your watercolor pen, you can just add just to blend it a little bit and give it sort of that watercolor look. And that's what it looks like here once it's dried. And then on the bottom here, I used the Colorista water markers. And so what I've done here is I just add a little bit water in the inside, and then I'm just sort of flicking it towards the inside. You don't want too much water. I think I have a little bit too much water there right now. And it just gives you sort of this beautiful watercolor effect on the water droplets.
Marcie, quick question.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
If someone wasn't comfortable with free-forming those doodles, could they just trace the stencil?
Absolutely. Let's see if I can. There we go. Okay, that's not the right one, but let's see. Yeah. So all you have to do, you probably can't see that. There we go. But the joy of adding a bit of marker and doodling is it doesn't have to be neat. It doesn't have to be in any sort of order. You're just having fun, whether it's dashed lines, dots, dotted lines, what have you. The other thing is once you've colored your cardstock, remember with your stencil, you still have ink on your stencil. So just spray a little bit and flip it over, or you can take a wet, what I did here is I took a wet wipe and I rubbed it gently through the stencil, and I got this really very muted but really beautiful water droplets. Another, yes?
Sorry, Marcie, just quick question.
Yep.
Faye is asking, how does she know what kind of ink to use? Does it matter if you use oxide or ink, or are there different do the different inks give you different effects?
The two inks that I basically use are my tried and true, the distressed oxide ink and the distressed ink. These ones have the distressed oxide is water reactive, so you get a different look with that. You could probably use Gina K if you had. I know Hero Hues is water reactive as well. You could pretty much use anything, any ink, if you didn't want to move it around like a watercolor like this. And this
I think if you were going to use it just for ink blending, you can use any of those ink blending inks, whether it's Pink Fresh or Gina K. But if you want to do the reactive ink or the reactive techniques, then it should be Distress or Hero Reactive.
Yeah. And this is dried using the Colorista watercolor markers. And then, so I took it up a notch, and this is the same stencil by Gina K. I just used saltwater taffy, went through the stencil, and then I just took out my my marker and I just scribbled some lines. That's all I really did. And it would be a beautiful background on a card, on a scrapbook page, on a TN, anything like that. And then you can also layer your stencils. So what I did here is, this is unfortunately an older stencil, but this was a Pink Fresh stencil. Laid that down first, then I grabbed my second leaf stencil and used my ink and pounced through. And then once I took off the leaf stencil, I left the first diagonal stencil on, and then I just rubbed in a little bit to give a little bit more oomph in the card. Otherwise it would just, you wouldn't really see too much, but now it's more, the squares are more defined. Another idea is using, so I'm using the Distressed Watercolor Cardstock by Ranger, and I'm using this stencil, and I'm going to take my Coloristas, and I'm actually going to, and I'm doing this gently and making sure that it's on the side of the marker, not on the top, and I'm not pushing very hard. I'm just sort of flicking the color like that. But I thought it would be nice with oops, a little bit more orange. Okay, now I can't line that up. There we go. So I'm just flicking on just a little bit of orange. And then I'm going to take my watercolor brush, and this is going to be sort of free form. So make sure you have some water right on the end. And I'm going to go over this and then flick it down. So I'm just adding a bit of water, blending, and then flicking it. Adding a bit of water, blending, and flicking it. And I'll show you how it turned out. Okay, a little bit more there, a little bit more water. And then flick it. And this is what it can look like. And it's not perfectly straight, but it's a beautiful burst of color on the back of a card or on a scrapbook page or TN notebook page. Make sure that you do have the right paper, because I did try it on a non-watercolor. I think this might even be 80-pound cardstock. And as you can see here, it wouldn't blend. So you need to have a watercolor or a mixed media paper to do this technique here. Now, you don't need just stencils. If you have dies, you can definitely, I just took a circle die and I cut it out of the cardstock. I used it, I put it on a piece of paper, put it on the piece of paper like that. Then I took my other stencil and stenciled it through. Then we do a little bit more. So what I did here is I stenciled through a few different colors. Leaving this on, I took my ornamental fans. I think that's also Gina K stencil. And I added the green on top. And then I grabbed out my black marker and just did a little bit of doodles there, different ways. So this one is just a loose couple of rings of circles. This one, there we go. You can see the white. And then this one was all the black. The other thing you can do, I used this stencil, which I'm sorry, I believe it's out of stock, but I had tried it a few weeks ago and I just really loved it. I used it to make this. And so what this is I just used my distressed oxide inks and I went through the stencil and then I took my marker and I double drew around each little petal. And if you didn't want it on a scrapbook page, and I fussy cut, so I fussy cut it out. You could use that on anything. It's a beautiful, beautiful color. The next thing I did was using this photo play. This is, what is this called? Oh, What a Beautiful Day, Part 2. And it's the one with the kites. And what I did in this card is I used 3 different stencils. So I used the background, the cloud stencil, then I used the sun, and then I used the kite. And what I did is I put the stencil on top of my paper and I ink blended and I drew my little bow ties on the tail of the kite. And then I took my black marker again and just drew around it a couple of times. And I mean, you can use as many stencils on a card as you want. The possibilities are endless. The next thing I did is this is done with Elizabeth Craft die. And what I did is I took a piece of cardstock, or not a piece of cardstock, but a piece of watercolor cardstock. I drew I trace the hearts. And then what I'm going to do, let me see if I can bring this closer and do this at the same time. Then I'm just going to sort of doodle the hearts just like this. It's so fun. Doesn't even need practice. You just need to just try it. It's so relaxing and so much fun. And what I did when I finished this is I created this card. So this was a stencil. I did the double outline. I just cut out around the top, just cut out around the top. And then this is, I think it's Plum Grove paper and rub-ons and whatnot. And it's just a beautiful little card that is from your heart. Yes, that was a pun.
Marcie, Adrian is asking, did you doodle through the stencil with the stencil in place? Could you maybe show that again, please?
The heart one?
Yes, please.
That's the one? Okay. Where's my black? Okay. You know what? I'm going to go up here. So all I did is just trace around some of the hearts. So you don't always need to have stencils all the time. You can use your dies. And then I just double. There. I mean, if you wanted to, you could probably do, you could even do like a crosshatch, or you could do dots, anything like that. And that is the end result. Now, another one I did was a TN notebook. Maybe I need to put it down. It's probably better. Is it lighter that way? So I took a cloud background paper, and I used the Falling Hearts by Lawn Fawn, and I used the stencil butter on that. And then I took the Photo Play kites, and I traced the shape onto a patterned paper and cut it out. And then I just loosely put on the kites, the I don't know what they call them. Just like
kite
that.
Frame.
Kite
the
frame.
Kite frame.
The kite frame. I used one of the word stencils that we have in the store in the background. And then I ended up cutting out a couple of clouds and just popped them up on pop dots with the extra paper that I had. This next one I used, it's the TCW, what is this called now? Layered celebration lights. And I used a few different techniques on here. So the blue is actually an oxide ink. The purple is the eggplant stencil butter, but I used my my blending tool and I just dabbed it through the stencil. Then I used the black, which is also the oxide, and then I used the gold stencil butter, and I tried to put it on a little bit thicker, and I used my heat gun so it puffs up a little bit. Then I did a scrapbook page. And this is all sort of using Life in Bloom. And I used the stencil, which is, it's the layered stencil from Lawn Fawn, the clouds. And then this is also a Lawn Fawn, it's Falling Hearts. And so this, I used the pearlized stencil butter for the clouds. And then I used the oxide ink for the hearts. And then the last one I want to show you is I made a mixed media page, which was so much fun. I love mixed media. So I used the water droplet stencil again. Well, first, actually, I put on, this is the collage paper from 49 and Market. I tore it up and I used matte medium to put it on. And then I took my Starburst stencil and I used gold paste and put that through. I used the stencil and that saltwater taffy. I let it dry. I had to make sure everything was dry. And then I took my marker and sort of just outlined the water drops a couple of times. Now there's one last one, and it's walked off. I don't know where the heck it went. All my stuff all in one place. No, I can't find it.
Every crafter goes through that.
Oh, here it is. Here it is. And then I made a card. And what I did with this card is, I don't know if you can see, I used the stencil, the water droplets from Spellbinders, and I used this is Fairy Dust by Lawn Fawn, and I used it over patterned paper. Oh, there you go. Now you can see it. And it just adds a little bit of character to the card. Okay. I think those are all my samples. If anyone has any questions, ask
Everyone
away.
is loving the cards. They love the mixed media page. Which would you say is your favorite project that you showed tonight?
My favorite project, well, I have two. It's definitely this one, the TN, but of course I love my mixed media. This one was so much fun. And I even have ink splatters. Yeah, this was by far the fun, but this one was challenging. I challenged myself to see how many stencils I could use on one card. And I probably could have used a fourth one. I probably could have used maybe this one font. I think it's called Art by TCW. I probably could have added some in there as well. But
so that's the challenge we throw out to our community and everybody who's watching. Try grabbing 3, 4, 5 stencils from your stash, because we know you all have them, and see what you can do on one project. How many stencils can you get on one project and use it different ways? Or conversely, take one stencil and try to do it 3, 4, 5 different ways. See what you can do with one stencil and all kinds of different techniques. Well, I'm not seeing any other questions other than lots of love for your projects, Marcie. So thank you very much for all these great ideas. And Gabrielle says, I like them all, very challenging. Thanks for the inspiration. Sheila says, I really need to play with my stencils more. And we're getting lots of great responses. So thank you so much, Marcie.
Enjoy, pull out your stencils and have some fun. I'd love to see some ideas that you guys do with your stencils on the Facebook group.
Excellent. Well, good night, everyone. We will see you tomorrow night for What's New. And then Darlene is up for Learning Live next week, and she has so many things planned. Pun intended. Hint, hint. Have a good night, everyone.
Bye.